He said I need to learn to drive. That part was true. What he didn't say was that for 6 straight weeks, we almost never left that parking lot. Engine off. Rain on the roof. Nothing but the sodium glow of the lot lights through the glass, and every night he'd turn to me and find one more reason to stay 10 more minutes. In America, they tell you learning to drive is how you become an adult. Nobody told me it's also how I'd learn to make a man stay. But I'm getting ahead of it. Let me back up. The road test. My second one. I failed on the parallel park, clipped the cone, panicked, stalled the whole thing out in front of a state examiner with a clipboard and a face like a locked door. I walked out to the waiting room, and I already knew. You always know. That night at dinner, back home, I told my family. I remember it exactly. My mom was cuting my little sister's chicken. My older brother was arguing with my dad about the Vikings. And I said it, I didn't pass. Again, and there was this half second where nobody looked up. Then my mom said, "That's okay, honey, pass the salt," and the table just kept going. The Vikings. The chicken. All of it, rolling right over me like I hadn't spoken. That's the thing about being the middle kid in a house of 7. You learn early that you're the one who's fine. Nobody worries about the one who's fine. You could set yourself on fire, and somebody'd ask you to grab the fire extinguisher on your way out. So I did what I always did. I said I was fine. And I moved 2 hours away for school and got a night shift in a Rommate, and I told myself that was freedom. The Rommate was Ash. Ash Delgado, 20, loud, kind, the kind of guy who'd insult you and hug you in the same breath. He came home that Thursday to find me soaked to the bone, dripping on the kitchen tile, because I'd missed my shift bus and walked the 40 minutes back from the warehouse in a cold October rain. My shoes made a sound like wet sponges. "Bro," he looked me up and down. "Why do you look like a sad little raccoon? Bus left early. So take the..." He stopped. His face did something. "Wait. Do you not? Can you not drive?" I stared at the floor. "I'm working on it. You're 21. I'm aware. You're 21 and can't drive." He said it slow, like he was tasting it. "Theo, that's diabolical. That's actually diabolical. And here's the thing. He wasn't being cruel. That's what got me." He was grinning, but there was something underneath it, like he actually couldn't believe nobody'd ever fixed this for me. Like it was a problem worth having. I mumbled something about the city, about how I grew up on buses and trains, how my parents never had time, how I failed the test twice and just stopped trying. He listened to all of it. Then he pulled out his phone. "Yeah, no," he said. "We're not doing this. Mateo's got the truck." I didn't know who Mateo was yet. I'd find out. "The Delgado's shop sat at the edge of town, Delgado and Son," the sign said, though the paint was peeling, and the Son part had a story I didn't know yet. Ash's older brother had come back from Chicago a few weeks back. Quit some engineering job, some management thing, to help their dad reopen the place. That's all I got out of Ash. That, and a shrug that said there was more he wasn't saying. Mateo Delgado was leaning under the hood of a Buick when I showed up that first evening. He straightened when heard the gravel, wiped his hands on a rag that wasn't going to help, and looked at me. He was 27, broad through the shoulders in a way that came from work, not a gym. Dark eyes, a couple days of stubble, forearms streaked with grease. He didn't smile. He didn't not smile either. He just looked. Took me in. Like he was diagnosing something. Ash bounced between us. "Theo, Mateo." Mateo, the roommate. "He can't draw, it's a whole thing, be nice." Mateo looked at me a second longer. Then, "Shop closes at 7, his voice was low. Fewer words than I expected. I got the truck after that. You want to learn or not? I said yes, before I finished thinking about it. The truck was an old Ford, the kind with a bench seat and a stick and about 40 years of somebody's life ground into the upholstery. He drove us out to a dead strip mall on the north end, a Kmart that closed before I was born, an empty lot the size of a small ocean, lot lights buzzing sodium yellow in the dusk. Nowhere to hit. Nothing to break. He put it in park. Got out. Walked around. Opened my door. Move over. I climbed behind the wheel. My hands were already sweating. And that's when I noticed it, the smell of the cabin. Old leather, worn soft. Coffee, gone cold in a cup somewhere. And underneath it the grease, engine grease, coming off his hands, off his sleeves, off him. I didn't have words for why it settled something in me. It just did. Clutches on the left, he said, sliding in beside me. Give it gas, easy. Ease off the clutch. You'll feel it catch. I did not feel it catch. I killed the engine. Twice. A third time so hard, the whole truck bucked and my teeth clicked. I braced for it. The sigh. The under-the-breath thing my dad used to do. The examiner's clipboard face. It didn't come. Again, was all he said. Tuck. I stalled it again. And here's what he did. He didn't yell, didn't sigh, didn't grab the wheel from me. He just reached over slow and put his hand over mine on the gear shift. Warm. Rough with callus. Guided it into place, gentle, like the knob might break. There, he said. Feel that? His hand stayed a half-second past when it needed to. Just a half-second. Long enough that I felt the heat of it against my skin. Long enough that I forgot, for a beat, what I was supposed to be doing with my feet. He took his hand back. Looked out the windshield like nothing happened. We never left that lot. Not that whole first night. We talked instead. I talked, mostly. I always talk. And he listened in that way, that made you feel like the words landed somewhere. It got dark. The lot lights hummed. The truck stayed exactly where it was. And driving home him at the wheel now, me in the warm passenger seat, I realized something that scared me a little. No one had ever been that patient with me. Not once. Not my whole life. Not even the people who were supposed to love me. You want to know how a habit becomes a religion? It happens quiet. You don't notice the moment it stops being a thing you do and starts being a thing you need. 7 o'clock. That was the hour. By the second week, I stopped waiting for Ash to text him. I just showed up at the shop at close, hovering by the bay door while Mateo rolled the toolbox back and pulled the shutter down. He never seemed surprised to see me. He never seemed anything, really just tipped his chin toward the truck like, of course, like the sun coming up, and we'd drive out to the dead Kmart lot and I'd fail to become an adult for another 90 minutes. I was getting better. Slowly. I could pull away without stalling most times. I could shift into second without the truck screaming. Small things. But he acted like each one was a big deal, not with words. He didn't have the words for it, just this small nod. This little downward tilt of his head. I started living for that nod. That's embarrassing to say out loud. It's true anyway. Third week, he changed something. I climbed into the truck, and there was a cup in the holder. Not his. A paper cup, cardboard sleeve. Steam still coming off the lid. I looked at it. Looked at him. For me, he didn't answer. Just started the engine. I picked it up. Took a sip. And okay. I have to explain something about the drink. Because it's stupid. It's so stupid. It's a coffee order. But it's mine. Large, half regular, half decaf, because caffeine wrecks me. But I like the ritual oat milk, 1 sugar, and cinnamon on top. It's a fussy little order. It's the kind of order that makes the barista's eye twitch. It's the kind of thing you only get right if somebody told you. Nobody told him. I never said it. Not once. I'd never ordered coffee in front of him. I'd mentioned, maybe, one time, weeks back, riding home in the dark, half asleep, that I couldn't do full caffeine at night, and that oat milk was the one thing I wasn't willing to compromise on. Offhand. A throwaway. The kind of thing you say into the dark and forget you said. He remembered. He remembered, and he went and got it right, all of it, down to the cinnamon. I sat there with the cup in both hands, and I could not talk. Which, if you know me, is a medical event. My whole life, I've been the one who remembers everybody else's stuff, my sister's allergy, my brother's team, my mom's bad knee. I'm the one who notices. Nobody ever aims it back at me. You get used to being the mirror. You forget you have a face. And this man, this quiet man with grease under his nails, who said maybe 40 words a night, had been paying attention to me the whole time. Storing it up. Getting it exactly right, and then just not mentioning it. Theo. He was looking at the road. It's getting cold. Yeah, I said. My voice came out wrong. Yeah. Thanks. I drank it. I didn't trust myself to say anything else. That night in the lot, he put my hands on the wheel himself. Left hand, right hand. Positioned them. 10 and 2, he said. Clock. Left hand at the 10, right at the 2. Nobody actually does that. I do. He sat back. 10 and 2. Say it. 10 and 2, I said, and he did the nod, and I felt it in my chest like a struck bell. We didn't drive much that night either. We argued instead. About music. He'd put a tape in an actual cassette. The truck was that old, and it was Springsteen. Of course it was Springsteen, some long, sad song about a car and a girl and a highway out of a dead town. This is boomer music, I told him. His head turned slow. Say that again. It's boomer music, Matteo. It's your dad's music. It's music for a man who owns exactly one flannel. I own 6 flannels. That's worse. And I swear the corner of his mouth moved. Just barely. The closest thing to a smile I'd gotten. He looked back out the windshield and did this thing with his hand, tapped the top of the steering wheel twice with his thumb, tap, tap, like he was about to say something. Then he didn't. He just let the song play. You'll get it, he said finally. One day. What he's singing about. What's he singing about? He was quiet a while. Rain had started, soft, ticking on the roof. Leaving, he said. And how it doesn't fix anything. I didn't have a comeback for that. He didn't seem to want one. The lot lights buzzed. The windows were fogging at the edges from our breath, the heat of 2 bodies in a cold cab. And at some point, I don't know how, we'd both leaned in over the bench seat, angled toward each other the way you do when you're really talking, and I realized we were close. Really close. Close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, the exact line where the stubble stopped on his jaw. Close enough to feel the warmth coming off his skin. Neither of us moved. That's the part I kept coming back to. Neither of us moved. There was this long, stretched-out second where the whole cab went still, where I could hear my own pulse in my ears, where I was aware of my mouth and his mouth and the 6 inches of charged air between them. He looked at me. I looked at him. The rain came down. And then he sat back, cleared his throat, said, "Getting late," drove me home. Ash was up when I got in, sprawled on the couch, controller in his hands, not even looking at me. 6 weeks of lessons, he said, and you still can't leave the parking lot. What are y'all really doing out there? Practicing, I said. And, Ash, I'm just saying. He paused the game, looked at me, and there was something knowing in it, something older than his 20 years. My brother don't bring nobody coffee, man. In case you were wondering. Ever. I went to my room. 1. Shut the door. Sat on the edge of my bed, with my coat still on. And I made myself say the true thing, the thing I'd been dodging for a week. I'd started counting the hours. All day, every day, at class, at work, I'd catch myself watching the clock, waiting for it to swing around to 7. Waiting for the shutter to come down. Waiting for the smell of that cabin, and the nod, and the man who'd learned my coffee order without being told. This was going somewhere. I could feel it, the way you feel a hill in the road before you see it. And I told myself, sitting there in the dark, careful, Theo. This is dangerous. The storm came on a Tuesday. You could smell it before it hit that green, metal smell the Midwest gets right before the sky opens up. By the time I got to the shop, the rain was coming sideways, and Mateo was standing in the open bay watching it, arms crossed, oil rag hanging out of his back pocket. Can't practice in this, he said. I know, he looked at me. I looked at the rain. Neither of us said the obvious thing, which was that we could have just gone home. Instead, he tilted his chin at the truck, and we ran for it, and then we were sitting in the dark cab with the rain hammering the roof like something wanted in. We didn't drive anywhere. Of course, we didn't. He'd brought the coffee. It sat in the holder between us, steaming. Cinnamon. Always the cinnamon. For a while, we just sat. The lot lights turned the rain gold. The windshield ran like a river. And I don't know if it was the storm, or the dark, or the way a closed car makes you feel like the rest of the world stopped existing, but something in him came loose that night. My dad had a heart thing, he said. Out of nowhere. Staring straight ahead. Couple years back. That's why the shop closed. Nobody to run it. I stayed quiet. I'd learned that with him. You don't fill his silences. You let them breathe, or they close back up. I was in Chicago. His thumb moved on the wheel, not the tap, just restless. Good job. Real good. And I came back. A beat. That's what the oldest does. You come back. That's a lot, I said. Careful. Small. It's just how it is, he said it flat, like a fact about weather. You carry it. Nobody carries you. That's the deal. And there it was, this crack in him, this thing I hadn't seen. Because I knew that. I knew exactly what that was. From the other side, but I knew it. I'm the middle one, I said. Out of 5. You know what that's like. He waited. You're never the emergency, I said. There's always somebody louder. Somebody sicker, somebody younger, somebody in more trouble. So you learn to be fine. You get real good at being fine. And then one day you realize being fine just means nobody ever has to look at you. The rain filled the space where he didn't answer. I failed my road test twice, I said. Told my whole family at dinner. Nobody stopped eating. I laughed. And it came out ugly. Not one person stopped eating, Mateo. He turned his head then. Just his head. And he looked at me the way he'd looked at that Buick weeks ago, like he was finding the thing that was broken so he could put his hands on it. I stopped eating, he said. It didn't make sense. It made all the sense in the world. I don't know who reached first. Place. I want to say it was mutual. My hand was on the gear shift. I don't even remember putting it there, and his came down over it. Warm. Rough. The way it had that first night, guiding me into gear. Except this time there was no gear to find. The engine was off. We weren't going anywhere. His hand stayed. Mine stayed. And that was the whole thing, just 2 hands, one over the other, on a cold metal knob in a dead parking lot in the rain. Neither of us looked down at it. We looked at each other. His thumb moved, slow, over the side of my hand, back and forth, and I stopped breathing right. I could feel my pulse in my throat. I could feel the heat of him filling up the whole cab. 6 inches away. Then 4. He didn't close it. I didn't close it. We just held there on the edge of it, the whole night balanced on that one point of contact, and the rain came down, and the lot lights buzzed, and I understood that whatever this was, it had already happened. We were just late admitting it. Then he took his hand back. Gently. And he drove me home, and neither of us said a word about it. That was the storm. The kiss came 4 nights later. I'd stalled the truck, genuinely stalled it, not on purpose, I swear, and I was frustrated, hitting the wheel with the heel of my hand, saying I was never going to get it. I was always going to be the guy who couldn't do the thing everybody else could do at 16. And he reached over to fix my grip, 10 and 2, same as always, except this time when his hand closed over mine, I turned toward him. And he was right there. And he didn't sit back. Theo, just my name. Low, in that voice, rough at the bottom. The way he said it, I swear it had weight, like it was a thing he was setting down carefully. Yeah, I said. To what? I don't know. To all of it. Come here. I came here. And I'd been imagining it hesitant, soft, both of us shy, but it wasn't that at all. His hand went from my hand to my jaw, thumb along the line of it, and then to the back of my neck, into my hair, and he pulled me in like he'd been holding himself back for 6 weeks, and the wire finally snapped. His mouth was warm. He tasted like the coffee, like cold air, like the whole cabin leather and grease, and something underneath that was just him. I got a fist in the front of his flannel. He made a sound low in his chest. I felt more than heard. The bench seat groaned. My knee hit the gear shift and I didn't care. His stubble burned against my mouth, and I chased it anyway. The windows fogged. All of them gone white, the gold lot lights blurring out until there was nothing left but the dark and the rain and the heat coming off him in waves, and his hand fisted in my hair and my name, again, breathed against my mouth like he couldn't stop saying it. The rain kept coming down. The lot lights buzzed on, patient, over an old truck with fogged glass, going nowhere. I don't remember driving home. I remember the silence after. That's the part that stayed with me, not the heat, though God, the heat, but the silence in the truck when we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing wrong, neither of us looking at the other. Like we'd done something that couldn't be walked back. He dropped me at the curb. I had my hand on the door. Same time tomorrow? I asked. He looked straight ahead. His thumb tapped the wheel. Twice. He didn't say anything at all. He did show up the next day. That's the thing. He didn't run, not at first. He just got quieter, if that was even possible, and the quiet had a different shape to it now. Tighter. We didn't talk about the kiss. We didn't have to. It lived in the cab with us, in every inch of space between us, and about a week in, it stopped being something we could ignore. It was late. Colder than it had been. My hands were freezing, and he took one of them to warm it, he said, and I let him, and then his hands were on both of mine, and then somehow I was across the bench seat, and his mouth was on my throat, and I had my fingers in his hair, and it was more than the first time, hungrier, both of us past pretending. His stubble dragged along my jaw. His hand spread flat and warm at the small of my back and pulled me in like he wanted me closer than the seat allowed. I said his name and it came out wrecked. He breathed mine against my collarbone. The glass fogged. The heat of him was everywhere, and I was gone, completely gone. And then he stopped. Just stopped. Pulled back. Put a hand flat on my chest, not pushing, just holding the space open between us. His breath was ragged. His eyes were shut. Theo, rough. Wrecked. We can't. We literally are. I mean it. He sat back against his door. Wouldn't look at me. Get behind the wheel. I did. My hands were shaking and not from the cold. We didn't talk the rest of the night. Here's what I learned about him that I wish I hadn't. He could want you completely in the dark and not know you in the daylight. Because the next time I saw him at the shop, in the afternoon, sun out, his dad in the next bay, and a customer signing something at the counter, he looked at me like I was anybody. Like I was the roommate. Hey, he said, and went back to the Buick. That was it. That was all I got. Out loud, in the light. I started to understand something, and it made me sick. I was somebody he could have behind a closed door. In the dark. In a truck nobody could see into. But not out here. Not where his dad could see, where the town could see, where it would mean something he'd have to say out loud. I told myself I was reading it wrong. I wasn't. Ash figured it out before I said a word. Roommates do. He came into my room one night and sat on the end of my bed and said, "You and Mateo. There's no me and Mateo. Okay." He didn't push. Then, quiet. "He's leaving, you know." I went cold. What? Chicago. He's going back. Got the old job hanging on for him. They've been holding it. Ash rubbed the back of his neck. Pop's surgery ain't cheap, man. The shop's underwater. Somebody's gotta cover it, and it's not gonna be shop money. He shrugged, miserable. It's always him. I heard all of it. I want to be honest about that. I heard surgery. I heard shop's underwater. I heard somebody's gotta cover it. And I still made it about me. Because that's the story I already had. The story where I'm the thing people leave. The thing nobody stays for. Ash handed me the truth, and I looked right past it. Because the version where Mateo was running from me hurt in a way that was familiar, and familiar pain is the kind you know how to hold. But something in me couldn't leave it there. 2 nights later, I was walking past the shop at close, and I saw him through the window alone, elbows on the counter, head down, and he looked so tired. Not sleepy tired. Bone tired. Carrying it all tired. The tired of a man who's the emergency for everybody and the emergency for nobody. So I did something. There's a gas station a block down with a decent machine. I went in and I ordered his coffee. Black, 2 sugars, no room. I'd watched him make it a dozen times. Watched his hands, filed it away the way he'd filed away mine. And I walked it back to the shop, and I set it on the counter in front of him, without a word. He looked at the cup, then at me. And something moved across his face that I'd never seen, this crack, this flinch, like I'd hit a bruise he didn't know was there. "You take it black," I said. 2 sugars. No room. He didn't say anything. His jaw worked. His eyes went bright, and he looked down fast, hard, and gripped the edge of the counter like he needed it. Nobody had ever done that for him. I understood it in that second. This man who remembered everybody's everything, I was the first person in God knows how long to hand it back. To pay attention. To see him. "Mateo," I said. "Don't." His voice broke, on the one word. He got it back under control. "Don't, Theo." The last lesson was 2 days later. He said I was ready. And he was right. I drove the whole lop of that dead lot alone. No stalls, 10 and 2, smooth into second, around and around, while he stood outside in the cold and watched. I could go anywhere now. I was an adult. Freedom. The whole American promise, finally mine. It felt like nothing. It felt like a hole where something used to be. I pulled up next to him and rolled the window down. "You did it," he said. "You're leaving," I said. He didn't answer. Which was answer. "You taught me to drive so I could get somewhere on my own," I said. My voice was too steady, the kind of steady that costs you. Or so you'd have an excuse to leave without feeling guilty. He looked at me. His mouth opened. I watched him get right up to the edge of it, the surgery, the shop, the whole crushing weight of it, all of it right there behind his teeth. Ask me to understand, I thought. Tell me. Say one true thing. His thumb moved toward the wheel. I saw it. The tap coming. It didn't come. He shut his mouth, looked away. And in his silence, I heard the only thing he'd ever let himself believe about his own life, that he didn't get to want things. That staying for me, asking me for anything, was a door he wasn't allowed to open. So he just stood there and let me think the worst, because leading me hate him was easier than admitting he wanted to stay. Both of us wrong. I know that now. Then, I only knew the cold. Yeah, I said. That's what I thought. I got out of the truck, left the keys in the seat, and I walked out of that lot into the rain, and I didn't look back, not once, even though every step I wanted to. Behind me, I heard the truck door. Him getting in. Not starting it. Just sitting there. In the warm cab, the passenger seat empty beside him, the seat that had been mine, still holding the shape of me, still holding the heat, and no place, in all the world, that he'd let himself drive to. I passed the road test 3 weeks later. First try. Parallel park, clean. Bought a car with warehouse money, a gray Corolla with 140,000 miles, and a check engine light that meant nothing, they said. It ran. It got me to work. I was free. You want to know what freedom tastes like? Nothing. It tastes like nothing. I drove myself to my shift in the dark, and there was no coffee in the cup holder. No cinnamon. Nobody's thumb tapping the wheel before they said a true thing. Nobody in the passenger seat at all. Just me and the engine and the road, going somewhere, arriving nowhere. Turns out you can spend your whole life wanting to be able to leave, and the second you can, all you can think about is the one place you'd stay. Ash cornered me about 2 weeks in. I was making cereal at midnight, like a person who was fine. You're an idiot, he said. Good talk. No, Theo. Listen, he put his hand flat on the counter. You think he left because of you. He's not leaving because of you. His voice cracked a little. Pop's surgery got scheduled. It's 40 grand after insurance, and the shop's got nothing, and Mateo's been eating it alone this whole time. That Chicago job is the only thing that covers it. He didn't take that job to get away from you, man. He took it because that's what he does. He gives things up so the rest of us don't have to. I stood there with the milk going warm in my hand. He never said, I whispered. Course he didn't. Ash laughed, wet. When has he ever? And there it was. The thing I'd looked straight past because my own wound had a louder mouth. He wasn't running from me. He was carrying his family, again, the way he always had, and he'd let me believe the worst, because asking me to understand would have meant asking me to wait, and wanting something for himself was the one thing that man had never once been allowed to do. I was wrong about half of it. He was still wrong about the other half. He should have told me. He should have tapped that wheel and said the true thing. Both of us broken in the exact shape that made us miss each other. I didn't go to him. I want to be clear about that, because it matters. I didn't fix it. He did. I found out later from Pop, of all people, that Mateo drove out to the dead Kmart lot alone that night. Sat in the truck. Engine off. Rain on the roof, same as always. And then, Pop said, he did something he hadn't done in 6 weeks. He started the engine. And the truck finally went somewhere. He drove it to my building. 9 at night. And I know how it started because Ash filmed part of it on his phone, laughing and crying at the same time, the traitor. I came down because Ash said there was a thing with my car. There was no thing with my car. There was Mateo, standing in the rain in the parking lot of my apartment, in front of God and Ash and two neighbors and his own father, who he'd brought, who he'd told, on the drive over, everything. I stopped on the steps. He looked wrecked, soaked through, his hands opening and closing at his sides. "I'm no good at this," he said. First thing. The talking. "I know," I said. Ept finding reasons. He swallowed. The truck. The coffee. The lessons. I told myself it was about the driving. His thumb moved, and there it was, against his own leg this time. Tap, tap. The tell. The thing he did before the truth. It was never about the driving. I couldn't breathe. "I can leave this town, Theo." His voice broke all the way open. "I've done it before. I can go anywhere." He took a step. "I just can't leave you." And Pop was standing right there. In the rain. I saw Mateo glance at him, saw the old fear cross his face, the whole conservative weight of a life spent not being seen. Pop was quiet a long moment. Long enough that my heart stopped. Then he stepped forward and put a hand on his son's shoulder. Squeezed once. "As long as he's good to you, mijo," he said. Gruff. Looking at the ground. That's all. That was it. No spetch. No melodrama. A hand on a shoulder and 6 words from a blue-collar man who didn't have more than that and didn't need to. It was everything. I came down the steps. I didn't run. I walked, 10 and 2, steady, the way he taught me. And when I got to him, I put my hand flat on his chest, right where his had gone to hold the space open between us, and I closed it instead. The surgery happened that spring. We covered it, all of us, together. Mateo stayed. Took a local engineering contract that paid less and let him sleep in his own bed. The shop's still open. The sun on the sign got repainted. It means something different now. 1 year later. Saturday morning. Rain on the windows, soft. 2 chipped mugs on the counter, his, black, 2 sugars, mine, oat milk, cinnamon, because now we make it for each other, and neither of us has to ask. The apartment smells like coffee and, faintly, always, like grease, because it's in his hands, and his hands are in everything now, in my hair, at the small of my back, on the mug he hands me without looking. He kissed me slow that morning, in the gray light, no hurry, no fog, no cutting away. Just his mouth on mine and his hand warm against my jaw, and all the time in the world. Then we drove out to the lot. Except this time I drove. Him in the passenger seat, my seat, once, warm now with him in it. My hands at 10 and 2. His hand on my thigh, easy, like it lived there. The Springsteen came on. The tape still works. Long sad song about a car and a highway out of a dead town, and I know now what it's about. I know exactly, and I did the thing I swore I'd never do. I sang along. He looked at me like I'd hung the moon. "Boomer music," he said. "Shut up," I said, and sang louder. The strip mall's half torn down now. They finally bought it. Some developer. The old Kmart's a pile of rebar, and the lot's cracked and weedy. But the lights still work. Sodium yellow. Still buzzing. I parked. Turned the engine off. Rain on the roof. Nothing but the gold glow through the glass, and him beside me, and the smell of leather and coffee and grease that I would know in the dark for the rest of my life. He reached over and took my hand off the wheel and held it. His thumb moved slow across my knuckles, back and forth. Some places are worth staying in, instead of just driving past. Turns out, love isn't always the road that takes you somewhere far. Sometimes, it's the reason you finally want to stop the car.